My Lords, I rise to speak to move Amendment 68, and it's not my intention to speak to any of the other amendments in this very diverse, large group in the interests of us proceeding in a timely manner. Now, noble Lords will see that this amendment seeks to amend the definition of the collective interests of consumers to include the detriment caused by the advertising and promotion of high carbon products and services. Now, for noble Lords who were not in committee, I will tell the story of the origins of this, which was an Amendment 109 from the noble lady Baroness Jones of Whitchurch, which put down an amendment that basically said that there would be controls to avoid any detriment for any action that would prevent us reaching net zero by 2050. Now, as I pointed out to the noble lady, that given at that time the Climate Change Committee was saying that we are well off track for meeting that 2050 net zero target, that would effectively stop all advertising of any product producing carbon, which I don't actually think was the noble lady's intention. And so I find myself in the unusual situation of actually, in report, tabling a more moderate amendment than we were discussing at committee in terms of reducing carbon emissions and looking towards reducing the detriment for consumers. And so that's why this amendment focuses simply on high carbon products. Now, as I said at committee, high carbon products, that would obviously include fossil fuels, flights, SUVs, plastics, but also fast fashion, meat and dairy, and banks that are funding the likes of BP and Shell. And I think it is worth noting, going back to when the government first started promoting this bill, that we were promised a huge amount of action within this bill. It was one of the purposes of this bill, was to provide protections from greenwashing. And we've gone a long way backwards from that. So my amendment is an attempt to reinstate in a small way what was stated to be the original intentions of this bill. And I have to note that, and I promise this was not coordinated, that I rise to speak to this amendment at the same time that another member of your Lordship's House, the noble lady Baroness Brown of Cambridge, actually has out a few hours ago, we're very timely this afternoon, has out a few hours ago on Business Green an article pointing out how the UK is not in any way on track to meet the needs for climate adaptation. Talks about us sleepwalking into an energy system that it cannot be implemented and cannot be achieved, and while we face flooding, extreme heat and water scarcity that will cost lives. So, my Lords, this is an amendment to take us in a direction that we surely need to go. There is no right to advertise. We can decide what sort of advertising all of our consumers are subjected to when we're talking particularly in the digital space, which people are bombarded with on a basis of every second. They're bombarded with more and more adverts, and we know how advertising tracks us once we've shown an interest in one topic, how people are subjected to a bombardment. We do not have to say that it's open slather and you can do whatever you like in terms of advertising and promotion. Cigarette advertising is an obvious area in which we've already taken quite tight action on this. And I note that Transport for London now restricts advertising on a range of products, including junk food, and there's talk of banning gambling promotion. France and Amsterdam are also looking at a ban similar to what this amendment would point us towards, of banning high-carbon adverts. So, my Lords, it's not my intention to put this to the vote. I really think this is something that there's so many areas of government action in which the Greens start saying something and 10 years later it gets delivered, it becomes government policy. But we really cannot wait on climate action as the Committee on Climate Change, the Independent Committee on Climate Change, which features, of course, members of your Lordship's House. We really need to act now, and if we're not going to see this from the government now in this bill, there will of course be forthcoming opportunities. The media bill comes to mind. We'll see where we can continue to push for action in this area. I beg to move it.